We proposed the two recommendations that you see tonight and took off the table the recommendation to combine two comprehensive high schools. You want to talk about the other point?
Yes, when, of course, going a little bit further and looking at the considerations that have to be made when combining two high schools, particularly when we looked at the last week's considerations of Rainier Beach to Cleveland and Cleveland to Rainier Beach, which options to look at. We did form a little task force, take and walk both buildings. I had the principals of both schools visit both buildings, included staff, facility staff, and other principals in that discussion. And what we found that there are cost considerations, particularly with Cleveland. If you were to put Rainier Beach students in Cleveland, you have increased transportation costs. The actual estimate of that is not known, but we're talking moving students from the southmost end of the city to Cleveland, and that we're already having to run yellow buses to Cleveland. Even though most of our high schools are on Metro, the Cleveland site requires bus transportation. The reverse of that is that there would be additional cost of renovation to Rainier Beach to accommodate the 1,100–1,200 students that we would want to put there. Right now we have one modern science lab on site. We would have to increase that number by at least 4, and that's an additional cost. And to actually prepare that campus for that number of students, and it would actually take a year to do, so that would push us out. So there are pros and cons to either site, both of which will increase cost. But also when you consider the impacts to the student assignment plan, overall impact of CTE programming across the district, we are in the process of still doing the skill center study, looking at a distributed model and what impact that would have in that discussion. Athletics and excess capacity impacts around the district overall. Ideally, we would want to balance schools, high schools, in terms of not only specialized programs but student enrollment numbers. And of course, and we've actually started that process this year. When we take a look, for example, at Roosevelt, that was at 1,748 at one point last year. We've gotten it down under 1,700, primarily by reducing the numbers of 8th, 9th grade seats this year. So we're actually trying to adjust that, but but that takes a 3-year process. So we've begun that process. So bottom line, there's so many factors that play into the decision to close a comprehensive high school. And I guess I have to go back to the other concern, and what I cautioned the board about last week, is when you take a high school offline, you're taking a significant number, over 1,000 seats offline at one time. And that our planning capacity versus functional capacity, if you're looking at functional capacity, you get dangerously close to a number that does not allow you very much flexibility within the system.
There, I failed to mention you have a document in front of you that details other information. Planning capacity and functional capacity, Michael touched on a little bit. We have a safety net restructuring effort that actually put into place this year as it relates to potentially increasing your enrollment, retrieving dropouts, helping them to be successful, and re-enter comprehensive high schools. The high school steering committee for high school reform has been in place for the last at least 2 years. And the focus of this committee has really been on aligning high school procedures and practices, board compliance and policy,